Kirby Smart was screaming and yelling, coaching and being passionate. Georgia's scrimmage was like a lot of first scrimmages. So let's talk about it. Dean Legge here at Dog Post. So we've got a lot of details over on the website. If you're not on our newsletter, you're making a mistake. It was extremely hot yesterday in Athens, and that was something that I bet you Kirby Smart loved that it was really hot. Not so he could get a good workout in, but so he could see how his team reacted to extremely challenging weather conditions. To be honest with you, it's very muggy in the South right now in Athens and everywhere because of the weather that came through, and so you can really feel the mugginess. And on Saturday, it was extremely hot in Sanford Stadium, and Kirby got a chance to see his team in those conditions, and he was not super pumped up about it. I've got a lot of these details in this what we're hearing. We're going to talk about later tonight, but let's talk about the scrimmage itself specifically. And this is something you can find on Dog Post as well. If you want Dog Post, you can try us out for $1 right now until the Alabama game. Insider scrimmage notes. Look, no one necessarily jumped out. I heard people talk about Gunnar Stockton, who I think had some really nice plays, but had some interceptions. He rotated in there with the number one offense. At tight end, I think Oscar Delp, to me, seems like he's your number one tight end. I think Lawson Lucky is making a lot of – the way I'm saying this is wrong. Lawson Lucky's playing a lot of snaps. Lawson Lucky's going to make plays for Georgia. I don't know when, but those two guys, when for the time being, those are going to probably be the two guys that are playing tight end for Georgia. At center, I don't know if Jared Wilson. I mean, I'm not reporting this. I'm saying I don't know if Jared Wilson's going to be ready to roll against Clemson. I don't know. Maybe he will, but he did not go yesterday. And you're talking about another day of Tate Ratledge being the guy at center. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but I think that I think folks just kind of need to say, well, they might not have their starting offensive line the way they drew it up coming into the season, and that happens. So there's all of that. I'm trying to go back to our notes. See, the thing about having a subscription is you don't have me just rambling up here. It's a well thought out written article that people have value in. One person, this is something that I think we'll touch on in riding home here soon. One person was adamant about Georgia's run game. I think on Saturday, scrimmages are not always the best. They're not the best way of judging what will happen when the season rolls around. But Saturday, there was a fair amount of throwing. They do that for a reason. You can create scrimmage, Oklahoma drills, what we used to call it when we were kids. You can create that in practice all the time with run game where you can kind of control things. Guys aren't going completely nuts. But in a scrimmage, when you're throwing it, you get fewer injuries. So there was a lot of throwing on Saturday. But back to the part I was trying to articulate, there is a belief now, and this is not coming from coaches necessarily, but people around the program that see it a lot, that Georgia's really going to be able to run the football. That sound you heard was someone taking advantage of that $1 offer we've got. That's not going to last forever, so take advantage of it now. There's a feeling that they really are going to try to run the ball, or that they will, and one quote in this practice report or scrimmage report is, quote, Georgia's running the ball this year. Like, the way they said it is, definitive. And I think if you get that from Georgia, they could be really a very powerful offense this season. In fact, I think they will be, just because of the diversity of the way they have the ability to score. But the backs themselves, forget the offensive line. Georgia's got an outstanding offensive line, but these running backs are people are paying attention to them. They are guys that, between Etienne, Robinson, Frazier, and they're not the only ones, but that's a long list right there. So let's just see how this develops over time. The Clemson game will be a great measuring stick for Georgia's run game. If you can run on Clemson, you're probably going to do okay against a lot of people. Now, I don't think Clemson's got the best run defense in the country, but they have a good one. And Clemson feels like they're in as good a shape with their front seven as they've been in a long time. So, the other thing that was yesterday, curious, I saw Dabo's comments yesterday about how their offense won the day. That was not what happened at Georgia. I mean, Dabo did not use that term, but he sure mentioned that, the offense played well. Georgia's defense, I think, was the group that won the day, for lack of a better term. And I think one, question, I even forgot to write about this, is, does Georgia have the depth they need on the defensive line and the front? At linebacker, yeah, but do they have what they need on the offensive line? You got Quintavious Johnson, who's kind of flashing. That's not a surprise, by the way. I mean, we went to go see him play. I think it was even this weekend, or it was next weekend last year. Matt DeBerry and I went to watch Mays and Doug play at Lakewood. Man, Quintavious Johnson is legit. I'm just going to say that. We said that a year ago, and this guy he's starting to pop around. Well, if he's a guy that's going to be out there too, then Georgia's getting where they got to go on the defensive line. But I think it is a concern. I mean, it is something to think about. Not concern, maybe be the wrong way to put it. But there are issues here and there for sure. But I think when you step back and you look 40,000-foot view, Georgia's the thing Kirby was aggravated by on Saturday was that Georgia was tested. He was not happy with the way that they responded to the heat. He was complaining that their leadership wasn't where it had been during camp, that they'd had really good vocal leadership, guys helping younger guys. But on Saturday, guys were, quote, just surviving. They weren't, that they were just getting out there trying to survive. I mean, I'll just tell you right now, some practices are that way. I mean, they're not fun. And I never played in the heat. Well, I did in tennis, but that's different. You're used to it there. I feel like we had practices one time or one weekend where the air conditioning wasn't working in the gym, and in the South, when the air conditioning isn't working in the wind, and you in the gym, and you have basketball practice in October, it's not ideal because October. I just remember that was not fun, and there were other times where it was just not fun, and the part that. When you have a team, though, and Kirby's right about this. We have a team. Guys are allowed to step up. Any one person, specifically a player, any one player can change the whole vibe of a practice with the decision to, I'm going to just say step up, just to go hard, not even make the play, but just have the right hand placement and then sprint after you don't make the tackle, sprint down there's all sorts of stuff that any one person can do, and that stuff changes games and seasons. Malachi Starks against Missouri, pick a play against Ohio State. That stuff. Oh, well, Brock Bowers putting his hand down. One moment, one player can change a practice, and therefore when you're doing that can change seasons. I understand acutely what Kirby's talking about there. Because that's really important, man. And if guys aren't doing that, he's got a right to be aggravated about it. Now, you don't want to overreact. That last 2 minutes, what I talked about there, I'm just telling you right now, that's really important. Like, whether Carson Beck is like playing well or not, man, forget all that, man. Like, whatever. That's not going to matter, okay? Carson Beck's going to be fine. You need to know that Jarrett and Hall are getting their ass whipped, but they're turning around and sprinting and getting to where they're supposed to be. Or that Tate Ratledge can't get the snap right in particular situations, but he's fighting through it. Now, those are just random examples. I don't know if that's what happened, but that's probably the sort of stuff they didn't see on Saturday. Like, getting into the details of stuff is fine, and we get that. We talk to multiple people, and like, what's so hard is if you don't see it with your own eyes, unless every single person's saying the same thing. And right now, the only thing that's about is that Tate Ratledge is playing center and that the running backs are really good. Then it's hard to say, that people are unbelievable at that moment. So what Kirby's talking about is so critically important to team and to what the season will be that they really do have to get that right. And just there's nothing to panic about. There's no reason to do that. Speaking of that word, Kirby was not excited about the quote panic plays. Georgia was not ready for that scrimmage yesterday. That's just what it was. Like, as they were not ready probably physically. I don't know if it's physically, but clearly mentally they were not where they needed to be in order to perform at the level that you need to win a national championship. It's August. It's early August. You don't have to perform like that yet, but you're going to have to at some point. They have a Clemson front seven. I'm not talking about Clemson's offense, okay? That if they fix their offense and like they zoom up and down the field on Clemson's defense, not only will they probably beat Georgia, they're going to win their league. They're going to be the 2 seed or something like that in the playoff, and you're going to see Clemson play for a national championship. If they fix their offense, they're going to be just fine. I'm specifically talking about their defense. Their defense is good, okay? And if Georgia's not ready to deal with that, they will be in a real fight. And that's what days like Saturday are about, is, are you ready for a real fight? And it didn't seem like they were, because if you've watched any of the Olympics, just because you're supposed to win doesn't mean you will. And just because you're supposed to win and you do win doesn't mean it's going to be easy. And that's the part that Georgia's got to get through right now. And the scrimmage on Saturday, what we were told, Delp made plays. Lovett made plays. Gunner was good, and he threw some interceptions, but it's there for him, Beck, people just like, they don't talk about the starting quarterback during scrimmages. I've just learned that through 20 years of doing this. The running backs, that people think that Frazier and Etienne are like, between those two and Branson Robinson, people won't stop talking about it. And then you also have Roderick. You have the younger kids. They've got running backs. I think at tight end, I said Delp made plays. Lucky's in there a lot. Jurisic looks the part, but maybe this is going to take a little bit of time. Let's just see. The linebackers are good. I think the DBs had a hard time yesterday. Kirby was not pleased with that, but hey, man, that guy ain't never plays with the DBs now. I mean, like that just, I'm trying to remember the last time I have an image of him like hugging a DB, and I think it was in the LSU game in 19 where maybe like Breeny or somebody made a play and he's like hugging him and all this stuff. It's hard to play defensive back at Georgia with Kirby Smart as your head coach. It's not easy to do that because he is into that position if you haven't picked up on it. But I think the biggest thing, the headline of this is they didn't fight the way they needed to probably to get where they had to go. Was that because of it being the first scrimmage, the heat, or X, Y, and Z? Yes. But they were not championship ready on Saturday. That's it. Thanks for watching.